Speak of which, how do you think this kind of race gonna change the future of the local cycling scene?
Yeah,
how do you think?
Well, how do I think it will change? I hope that races and maybe even a league in Malaysia will come around with this kind of format, because it is fantastic at progressing individuals.
True.
And during the short time that I raced in the UK, I would see juniors move up from each group one to the next as they got better.
Yeah, that's how they earn their professionals.
And having
careers,
this structure of learning to race, you got faster and faster, and you learned more in each of the groups.
Yeah.
So I hope if it's adopted by someone who I don't know, but if it is adopted, it should help progress not only us. Amateurs, master amateurs, but it should also help maybe progress the next generation. But it all depends on whether somebody takes up this program and out of a COVID world, right?
True. Welcome to the SEMBANG KENCANG episode, brought to you by Giant SS2, supported by Wahoo Malaysia. A lot of you have been asking what is happenings with the Wahoo eRacing all about, and pretty much question we have received, what is the race all about? And today, this is what we're gonna do. We could simply just talk about this race and how it's all about. And just because of that, I bring over this to my friends, Jason Walker, the organizer and co-moderator, good friend of mine. I think he's the right guy to ask. So Jason, maybe you can introduce to our friend, the fellow audience, who are you, what you do, and what got you here.
So thank you very much for having me on the show. It's a great introduction, Phil, very impressive. What is my name? My name is Jason Walker. I am an avid cyclist and also a teacher here in Malaysia. So I teach physics at a local international school, and what I do alongside that is obviously I'm very interested in cycling, and ever since I've been in Malaysia I've always wanted to be in the race scene. I absolutely love racing, but I do actually come from an Ironman background, so I'm not a pure cyclist, I will say.
Since when?
Oh, let's not talk about the triathlon. And so since I've been in Malaysia I've always been really interested in racing, and with the MCO and many other events that have transpired over the last few months, I've really wanted to continue that ethos of racing, but without races. I looked for opportunities to take part in races. We were actually quite fortunate a few months before the MCO that a local organisation called Cycling Selangor organised some races for us in the local arena. And when the MCO started, they again very fortunately put some Zwift races on for us. And I'd done Zwift races and played around a little bit with Zwift races, and I actually found the event really, really good. And so alongside that, and to help some of us local cyclists, wanted to set up a sort of similar league. And so that's how it was all born, and how what currently is the Wahoo eRacing Malaysia League, where it all started. And so
how's the race work? I know you have all these category A, B, C, D, and the handicaps, and how do you maybe you can just explain to us, how do you know which group you in?
How does it work? So when a person registers, they register with a certain amount of information. You have to have your FTP and you have to have your mass in kilograms. When somebody enters this information, we can work out their watts per kilo. So their watts per kilo then tells us their ability in one way, shape or form. And so what we then do is we group people based on their watts per kilo. There are bands of numbers of watts per kilo for each individual category. And the first race we had about 50 to 60 people register, and so what I did is I looked at this band of numbers, and I looked at where there was distinct differences in the numbers, where I could categorize a certain number of people in a group. And ideally what I'm looking for is to get people close enough together that the worst person will be able to keep up with the best person in that group. That then gave me some numbers. These were the parameters and the bands that I used for each individual group. So for example, group E is between 2.5 and 3 watts per kilo, for example. So any new person that comes into the group that has an FTP and a mass that gives them a watt per kilo between 2.5 and 3 will automatically go into that group. It is all dependent upon the people that join up on race 1. And so every season, these will change, because what will happen, as we all know, Phil, people will obviously get better. And so our current ones at 5 watts per kilo will go to 6 watts per kilo.
Wow, we wish.
Oh yeah, we wish. So that's how I put people in their individual group. How I then assign the amount of time people get in handicap is based on some mathematics and some data that I've collected from the previous races that we've done. So I look at the average speeds of all of the groups, the top 4 people in each group. I then map this and create graphs to work out the predicted finish time for each group. What I then do is I adjust this based on the number of people that sign up and my own knowledge of how good those people are at working together, because I want that group ideally to come together at the end. And so the only way to win is if the group work really well together or better than the people behind them.
Wow.
That's how the whole system works. And when you enter the race and when you come to the race, we make sure that we time, and groups are let off as a gap from one group to the next. And the winner will be the first person to cross the line at the end.
Oh my God! So there's a lot of numbers, and you are really a data nerd.
I do try to be. There's only one little thing that's different, and that is to allow as many people to enter the race as possible. We sometimes allow 2 groups to go at once. So if you can imagine, Group E need the longest handicap. Group A then have to wait. So we tend to find that sometimes the time between Group E and Group A can be too much. So what we do sometimes is we set Group D and E off together, and then I provide an extra handicap bonus to Group E. And so if a Group E person finishes first, then they will always win.
Yeah.
But if a Group D first person finishes and Group E have a minute, then as long as the Group E person finishes within 1 minute of that Group D, they will win.
Yeah.
And this is to make it so that more people can get involved, which is what the whole idea is, right? Because the more people involved, the more money we raise for charity.
Yeah.
And that,
Speak of which,
thanks to you guys, is the main reason of the whole thing, right?
yes, that's the whole thing. This race, just for you guys' information, all the participants' participation fee will be donated to the charity based on the participation. So one thing I get a lot of questions, people are asking me is like, what is the so-called handicap match? What is Team A? How do you categorize yourself in Team A, B, C, D, E? You know, some people are just a bit confused, and I think maybe you can just explain it a bit, how you get it to that sort of handicap, and what is handicap?
Okay, so in Europe, a lot of the racing is done with a handicap process. Now, what this does is it's similar to golf. And so when you play golf, you have a handicap. And the way the handicap works is anybody of any abilities can play against anybody else. You just get a certain number of shots in advance. And the handicap system in cycling works the same way, but we use your watts per kilo to do that. So everybody has to have an FTP test. And so using a Wahoo, using Zwift, they have various protocols you can use to get your watts per kilo, your FTP, and then it's simply divided by your mass in kilograms.
Next time we got Jason to explain to us what is FTP all about, functional textual power, or what?
So we'll save that for another one.
Yeah, probably that's a good video for that.
So the handicap system simply works with just putting people in groups based on their watts per kilo. And so if somebody is not as good as somebody else, ordinarily they have a lower watts per kilo. And so what we do is we put them in a different group, and they have a time advantage. They start the race before other individuals. And so we label it as groups. So Group E will go first. They tend to have the lowest watts per kilo in comparison to Group A. But they're all in the same race. This way, everybody is fighting to get to the line at the same time, and there's lots of tactics involved, there's lots of sportsmanship involved, lots of teamwork as well. And so many of the groups have to work together to stay away from the previous group, but also catch the one in front to try and win the race. So it's like a dog and a hare and a hound kind of.
Yeah, it's like a catch. We got cat
and mouse.
Cat and mouse. Yes, that's how we Malaysian call it.
So this is
kucing tangkap. tangkap tikus.
This is a normal process of us racing in the UK. So races that I join in the UK, they're all run like this, and this is how we progress juniors and people through the ranks of cycling. So this is quite common in the UK, but something that isn't done here in Malaysia. You asked about how we put the handicap in place. So each group will have a handicap, and the time I then calculate based on average speeds from previous races. So I try and make it so that it is fair for every single group, and every race we tend to have a different winner. So sometimes Group A catch, sometimes, I mean, last race Group E won. The time before that, Group E won. So and they won by like 30 or 40 seconds. And so the key is that depending on how the group work together, they easily can win. And everybody has an equal opposite chance.
So hashtag everyone can win.
Everyone can win.
So talk about how to, I mean, A, B, C, the category. So how in the race, how can you actually upgrade yourself to another level? Is it by just the next one? Is it you win the race or?
So in the UK, they do have a policy where if you win a race in one group, you're automatically promoted to the next. Now this is my third season of running this kind of process, and what we found was that if we did that, somebody who was promoted found it really difficult to establish themselves in that group. So we actually had a bit of a vote, and everybody voted that once you're set in one group, then you are fixed to that group for the entire season. If there's somebody that is doing really well in one group, then I actually contact them and ask them, what do you want to do? Do you want to move up? If you do, then that means that you lose all of your points that you've gained from the previous ones. But I remind them, and they also pretty much know the reason why they're taking part in the group is because they want the fitness, they want the fun, and they want it to be hard and difficult.
And improve your fitness, eh? I think that's a very fantastic thing.
Yeah, I've never had somebody that said, you know what, Jason, I'm happy to stay where I am. Lots of people want to progress. And so if somebody does make huge benefits, and the league goes on for between 9 and 12 weeks, and in that time, even just competing, people get a lot fitter. And so people do move, and they're happy to do so. But that's normally what happens. We do move them up a group, but it's not a minimum. We normally say stay in the group, and we have a little chat with that person to make sure they're okay with it.
How does the championship works?
So the championship works every single race. There is 25 people that go across the line first, and they get 25 points for the first place. They get 24 points for the second place, and so forth, decreasing. And so every single person from 1 to 25 will get a point. And in addition, each person in each group gets group points, but only the top 5 across the line. So the first in Group A gets 10 points, the first in Group B gets 10 points, etc. And the second gets 8, 6, 4, and 2. So we have 2 actual point classifications. There is the championship, and there is also the group.
So it makes more competition between the groups. It's a friendly competition.
And thanks to Wahoo, they've given prizes for the group winners. The draw. So every single time that you participate, you will get your name put into a hat, and your name will be drawn out every single time that you participate to win some prizes. So
the prizes is follow our Facebook. Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to us. Thank you. Okay, tell me about it. How do you define improve versions of the Zwift racing?
So we have to remember that this was all done from a voluntary basis. And so when we first started, the frustration that myself and many other riders had was that we were racing with people that had turbo trainers that weren't smart. And
that's why you need to get Wahoo. Sorry.
Yeah. And so, for example, I would be riding against somebody, and they would all of a sudden go past me in the virtual league, and I know that they couldn't go past me in the real world. And so what happened was there's lots of error and lots of problems with people using some trainers. And so what we did is we made a rule that only people with smart trainers and certain types of trainers could enter the league, and it made it a lot fairer and a lot more valid. And so when we say improved, well, what we've done is limit the people that can enter the ride, and I understand that's restrictive, and we don't want it to be restrictive, but we also want it to be fair, and that's one of the key things that we wanted. So improved is we limited it only to smart trainers. Using things like the Wahoo as a smart trainer that had verified power with a certain degree of accuracy was a minimum requirement for the league. And we found that people really liked that. They liked the fact that it was a fair race, that it was very similar to outside. And so that's one of the first improvements, is we're limited to that. Other improvements that we've made is having amazing team members. So before it was just all voluntary basis, it was mainly me and a few other of the amazing riders.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
A
So
few of
brought to you by Wahoo Malaysia.
A few other of the amazing riders offered to help me out, and so there was a lot of admin involved. It would take me roughly 2 or 3 hours to get everything sorted for the race before it happened. And so some of the improvements is we've made a heck of a lot more automated process. We've automated the process, and so Yang has done amazing in putting together scripts.
Yeah.
And so the improvements is easier registration, better admin, and we've still got the amazing video team with Vern as well.
When I under the state team, our coach always tells us if you want to be fast, you need to join more races. So I think that what you try to say is the more races you join, the better you will be, because you will keep on pushing yourself to another level. So then you can compete, and I think that is what Jason trying to say in the Malaysian way.
and you know the ones that we often find people that when they do these hard races, they sometimes get dropped. Right, the first time that they race,
I still remember the first time I get dropped like it.
They sometimes get dropped, and sometimes they'll only last 10 minutes in the race, but then they come back the next week and they last 15 minutes. And then before 3 or 4 weeks are out, they're with the group for the entire way. The idea is it's supposed to be hard, and many people come and they say they keep coming back because they get dropped and they want to get dropped.
Wow.
And you know the average cyclist loves being dropped because
it's give you a bit of your motivation or self-realization. Yeah, that's what happened to me last week when I joined a group, and haven't been training for like few months, and then because I lost a lot of motivation because there's no race.
Yeah.
So I joined a good friend of mine, and I get dropped, and yes, I throw up pretty bad. And speak of throw up, next week we have a special segment whereby we want you guys to submit your epic throw up videos at the finishing. So the best throw up videos, we will pick it up, and then we will give you some good giveaway.
That's for you, not me. I'm not involved in this.
I think this is going to be fun, because I think a lot of you last week, Charles, one of our friends, our participants, a friend of us in Miri, he was smashed himself so bad, and he literally shivering and throw up at the end. Something I also experienced last week, so bad.
But please consult your doctor to make sure that you're okay before you push yourself that much.
Yeah, I think we need to put a cautions here. Consult your physician before you do this. Thanks, Jason, for coming here today. It is a very precious moment to have him talking. And Angmo, we go international. Yes, the race went internationals, guys. We are not only in Malaysia, we have a lot of friends from international worldwide. So yes, and thank you so much for you guys for watching and spending time, and follow us and subscribe. Thank you for the support. And Jason, thanks to you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. This thing spent me a lot of time on it.
Yeah, it looks good. Fantastic.
Yeah, social distancing, bro. Okay.